Michael Wolff is one of the guys who, like, he's been on the Daily Beast. He's now a regular in the Daily Beast podcast. Basically, he's become one of their main Trump whisperer. He is the Maggie Haberman of the Daily Beast now. And he's got, allegedly, he's got an entire inside lane at the White House. No word about Miss Ghislaine? No, exactly. Michael Wolff is a Marxist. That's Richard Wolff. This is Michael Wolff. This is a different guy. He's a writer. You're thinking of the dipshit that our dear friend Tom Hartman used to have on all the time, and it just is like, yo, if your boss can't make money off of you, he's got no use for you at all. Like, it's the stupidest fucking argument ever. Again, just to recap, if I may, come here for a second. Everything that is based on effort of any kind operates on a profit mechanism, meaning that if the cost is versus worth, how much something is worth versus how much it cost was zeroed, like it's the same, the effort is not worth it. And therefore, if you're going to pay someone else to do something, they have to say the effort of me doing this because I'm a specialist or I have a strong back or I have the free time to do it is higher than the effort you would put forward to do it your fucking self, then you will pay them for that difference. So you don't have to do it. That's the point. And the analogy I like to use is that if to bring a spoonful of food to your face, if your arm took as many calories as were in the spoonful of food every time you brought it, so that literally the effort zeroed itself out, you would just be chewing and using up energy, you would gain nothing. There would be no profit, no leftover calories from the expenditure of the energy of your arm. You would die. The question isn't whether a market situation or an effort profitability standard shouldn't exist in humanity. It absolutely should. The question goes like how close we can get to zeroing out the effort on labor almost entirely through technology. And it's going to take a lot of it before we get to that point. It's just fucking silly. Yes, it's weight loss advice. That's exactly right. So back to this. So Michael Wolff has been talking to them, and they're promoting the shit out of the Daily Beast stuff, and it's working. They're making money hand over fist at the Daily Beast. So sorry, there's ads on there? I'm sorry. Let me see if I can fix that. Hold on one second. I don't know why that would be, but I can go into YouTube Studio and something in there. Share the show, by the way. Subscribe if you would. There's content. There you go. And go to live, and then go to monetize, and then let's see. How about we'll just turn. I think that should turn it off. Hopefully so. Apologies. I don't know. Well, sometimes I've been resetting a bunch of things, so it might have gone back to its default. That would make a great sculpture. Someone eating exactly the calories it takes to eat each spoonful. Yeah, that consumption is the point. And I think you're right. It would be a great sculpture to point out the fact that you have to pay people for their effort. Labor has value. And there is an element of Marxism that, while pretending to care about workers, zeroes out the value of labor and spreads it evenly across everyone, according to the to their needs, by everyone according to their ability. Well, all you have to do is cop out on your ability, and everybody else's job now is to provide for your needs. That's why it always fails. What you need is an honorable way of treating someone, giving them the value of their work. Okay. Well, healthcare is another great example. Who administers healthcare? What are you talking about? That's a good one. Okay, chat room. Before we get to these assholes, let's talk about that for a second. I believe healthcare is a responsibility. A right would mean that it's intrinsic to your worth, that it should be there via the universe. And it isn't, because you need a doctor or a pharmaceutical company or an EMT or an ambulance or bags of saline or blood, or you need an organ transplant and you need drugs to keep you from rejecting that organ, right? And in all that, there's a lot of work done by a lot of fucking people. And those people have to either be compensated, right? The goal of capitalism is to have everything. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but there's a lot of effort in that, right? There's a lot of effort in that bag of blood. Just getting the blood from someone, having them give up their blood that their body made to someone else, and then preserving it, transporting it, making sure that it's clean of pathogens or parasites. There's a lot of work in that. And so if you're saying healthcare is a right and healthcare should be free, what you mean is we should all put our money collectively into something that pays the people that clean and store and package the blood, and clean and store and package the organs, and clean and store and package all the sterile items you'll need for surgery. And then we need to pay for the education of the people who will be doctors, and pay for the education of the people who will be nurses. And we got to compensate them with a lifestyle that is equal to the stress they take on in the fucking job. That's not a right. That's a responsibility. That is the citizenry deciding that the value of these things, having enough doctors, having enough hospital rooms, having enough nurses, having enough medical staff of all sorts, anesthesiologists and all this kind of stuff, having like sterile scalpels to work with, retractors and tweezers and dialysis machines and all that kind of stuff, has more value than our tax dollars take to earn. Right? Because then we will part with it. If it matters more to us than the effort that we're giving towards the work we're doing just to feed ourselves and to care for ourselves, and there's money left over, and that's what you pay in taxes, and you give that tax somewhere and you go, I want this tax to go to that. That's not a right. That is a responsibility. That is someone taking responsibility for the community outside the realm of their own personal internal value structure, which is, can I get this food to my own mouth on my own? Does someone have to feed me, or can I feed myself? Once you've satisfied certain things, clothing, shelter, put your mask on before your kid. Once you've done that, you put your mask on, then you have effort left over where you are not currently dying from asphyxiation to save someone else's life. And in that process, you can decide what the biggest threat is. Now, often it goes to the military, because the biggest threat we're concerned about is the live person who wants to kill you. Now, most of the time, strategically, worldwide, as much as it might seem like it, the vast majority of the threats from outside people are not from foreigners who are trying to bomb you. They're largely from your neighbor or someone in your own household who's trying to stab you in the old-fashioned way of killing you, right? Okay, whatever, Medicare for all. You can't whatever it, Bob. That's my point. If you whatever it and just call it that, if that's just bumper sticker, it's meaningless. It will never motivate anybody who isn't already on the team that views this as a responsibility. They won't participate in it for a bunch of reasons. One, they may be morally opposed to it. You may disagree with that, but it exists. Okay? They might go, setting up drug rehab centers is, rewards drug addicts, while we should just focus on elementary schools because we don't have unlimited resources. Therefore, limited resource, what limited resources we have to spread it out on my priorities, and that's what my priorities. And your priorities may be different than somebody else's. It doesn't mean they're wrong. And you're going to have to find some way to meet in the middle. And eventually, over time, you can grow a system. Right? You could start with the ACA, move to a public option, then to a single payer system, right? So how that makes sex a right, so would that make sex a right or a responsibility? sex is an innate biological characteristic. I don't know if you're talking about gender, which is, again, a cultural phenomenon, depending on who you talk to. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Let's have healthcare for all. Yeah. Well, Trucker John, how? You won't. Until you convince everyone, or a significant amount of people, that not only is it valuable to give the works of their effort towards a threat they don't think about until it's too late. Most people don't get insurance because they don't think they're going to get sick until it's too late. That's pretty standard. If you're talking about sex as an activity, that's a different conversation entirely. It's a lot closer to this. As far as that, you don't have a right to copulate, for example. Rapists think they do. That they can take what they want. If they're being denied, if there's an uneven balance of who's getting laid in the world, they can right that balance on their own, and the effort of another person or the right of their bodily autonomy be damned. Right? So, anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that it's a responsibility to make it happen. You can't, and you will never get there with just a bumper sticker. How, by your logic, no one will get up in the morning? No, I feel like what I'm saying is that everybody views getting up in the morning as an effort they participate in, and it is an autonomous effort that they do themselves to get up, dress, clean themselves, brush their teeth, feed their kids and their spouse and themselves, go to work, do their things, and at the end of the day, with whatever energy they have left over, they can give to their community. Right? And part of what you give is your taxes. And part of the way you vote is you vote for people that will put your taxes where you want them to go versus where you don't want them to go. And you recognize that you're going to be at a difference of opinion with people about that in a democracy. You have to deal with that fact. So you have a responsibility to start convincing people that your path is better. And so far we haven't. And yelling Medicare for all actually made it worse, because it assumes it's like yelling Allah Akbar or praise Jesus or fight the power or something rando. The people around you who know the phrase and live in the phrase like the phrase and love hearing it, but nobody who's not on your team likes the sound of it. How we need to start with something. It will not happen overnight. We need to start by lowering the Medicare age to 50, or slowly people get real benefits. That's a great way to start. I agree. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's an incremental push. That's what I was saying about the ACA leading to a public option, leading to perhaps a version of Medicare for all or Medicare for all, to eventually where technology might bring it around, where medical care is a relatively human-free process. The production of pharmaceuticals, remote surgeries, or even AI surgeries at some point where it doesn't take a person's effort, so you don't have to house and feed that person, right? That's where we're going. Yeah, UBI only works if you. It's a great point. UBI. A lot of people have been talking about this in terms of AI taking jobs or whatever. UBI, if you do it without rent control or price controls, will just drive up the cost of everything overnight. It's just a recipe for inflation. DJT did YMCA for Putin in the back of the beast. Is that code, honey? Yeah. Honey, B-47? Welcome. Hello. I'm looking at I've got the chat over here on my screen. So the AI doctor will charge a lot. No, it won't, actually. Change the subject. Jessica Reed Krause. Have you heard of her? She's a Ghislaine Maxwell supporter and writes a Substack called Inhabit, saying Maxwell is innocent. No, but I did. There is another person that was brought up to me the other day, which was Epstein's last girlfriend. who, curiously enough, let's see. Let's see. No. What's her name? She's a dentist from Minsk, which is interesting because, yeah, there you go. Karina Shuliak. She's from Belarus. She's from Minsk in Belarus. And, yeah. Yeah, she was spotted on Fifth Avenue in 2023. That's the last time anybody's seen her. This is Karina Shuliak. She's a Belarusian Russian. She was Epstein's final girlfriend. She was the last person that spoke to him before he allegedly died. And again, Minsk. Yeah, Otis. Minsk. Minsk, like the agreement between Russia and Ukraine that Russia wouldn't invade anymore. That Minsk. And she hooked up with him after he had been convicted. So she started dating him after it was well known. Yes. So, yes, this might be the Bella thing, right? Belarusian dentist is my new best friend, says Donald J. Trump. That's what he was starting to write, and then Stephen Chung knocked the phone out of his hand, right? Another Russian link to Trump Epstein, absolutely. So this young lady started dating Jeffrey Epstein, I want to say in 2010, and was somewhere around there, 2011, and dated him all the way through to when he was like a week before he was jailed. She was the last phone call he made. He told the guards he was calling his mother, and he actually was talking to her. He changed, everybody's like saying he changed his will. He didn't change his will. He updated his will. He kept most of it and then moved some money around to other people. He didn't shift, from Ghislaine to somebody else or somebody to Ghislaine. He didn't give her all of his money all of a sudden or anything like that. She got something, I want to say somewhere like, she lives in Epstein's townhouse on East 71st Street. And it's like a $50 million property that she lives in. Doesn't she dress like she lives in a $50 million property? She still has her dentist license. He had remember, I don't know if you saw this, like he had a dental chair in his home and at the island. Remember seeing all the pictures where they show inside his house and there was like this weird fucked up thing where there was a dentist chair and you're like, why the fuck is there a dentist chair in there? That's why there was a dentist chair. And apparently, according to people around her, she was known as the inspector, and she kept tabs on him because she like who he was meeting with and and what he was doing and who he was hanging out with. And either she was trying to act as his sponsor to keep him out of trouble, or she was paranoid because he said he'd had thousands of trysts and with underage girls and this is the way he talked about it. And he'd slept with a bunch of other women, including him and Trump apparently sharing a girlfriend at one point, right? But I think she might have just been a Russian handler. Because again, she's from Minsk, Belarus. Belarus is aligned with Russia right now. And what did he do the last week he was alive? Transfer a bunch of fucking money, billions of dollars through Russian banks. Yeah. And the reason allegedly that he had the dental chair and what she would do is that he liked fixing the teeth of beautiful women with bad teeth or some shit was the idea. Nobody's interviewed her though. And she's the last person who spoke to him. They know because of prison records that it was her phone number. He didn't obviously call his mother because she'd been dead for years. His mother was dead long before he was arrested. So he definitely wasn't talking to her. Unless they put the phone down and there's like, gang, 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 and he's Looney Tunes. No, but they know he called her. So, anyways, just thought I'd fill you in on the inspector, Karina Shuliak, Epstein's last and final girlfriend, with his old face. Anyways, we don't know what happened afterwards. But that's why there's a dental chair in his properties. When you see pictures of a dental chair, that's why. She lives in a $50 million apartment in New York, Alina Shuliak. She lives in a $50 million apartment previously owned by Jeffrey Epstein in Manhattan. I'm just saying, some great witnesses out there, don't you think? You think there's some great witnesses out there? You know what I mean? Yeah. So, anyways, that's Epstein's last girlfriend. There you go. And how many people knew about her before I brought it up? Karina Shuliak. That's a story, by the way, from 2023. This was the story right here. Jeffrey Epstein's last girlfriend spotted on Fifth Avenue in New York City. Karina Shuliak was the last person to speak to Epstein on the phone from prison before his suicide. Allegedly, the suicide. Whatever. This is a Fox News story from 2023. Yeah. A mere $50 million place. Exactly. Bill Murray in a little shop horse. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, no idea, no clue. There you go. Well, I'm glad I'm bringing you new information. That's helpful. She apparently was left a big pile of money, and is the last person to speak on the phone with him, from the jail anyways. He spoke to her for 15 minutes. When she hung up the phone, she was not under the impression he was suicidal, a source told New York Daily News, because they asked her about it. They'd been in Paris before he returned to U.S. in 2019 at the Teterboro Airport on federal, and he was picked up. She was not. You're traveling with a sex trafficker and they don't bring you in for questioning? Odd. No? We're going to learn Chung is a CCP. Odd job? That would be hilarious if he was. Now, back to why they're not going to shake this shit. Now, here's another example. This is, Michael Wolff is, again, Trump's biographer at one point. Apparently, Trump can't not talk to him, and there are a bunch of people around Trump that are apparently talking to Michael Wolff. Take that with what you will, grain of salt, whatever. But the fact that Peanut Butter Dickhead is having him on for an interview like in the middle of August, when they're about to come back in a couple of weeks from recess in the House, and Trump is hoping this story will die down, right?
With the 100 hours that you have, is there anything in there? Like, let's just say I'm interested.
Is there anything in there? Hold on.
Oh, hello there.
Mm-hmm.
Buyer. I would be interested in buying the 100 hours that you have. I would be interested in buying Bannon's 15, 16 hours that he has, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would be interested in both of them.
Yeah, imagine how the Russians feel, or the North Koreans, or the Chinese. My God, it might be easy to believe that there are several copies for sale out there.
Let me just add about Bannon's what the hours that Bannon has is that I wouldn't buy them from Bannon if I were you, because Bannon does not own them.
Oh, who owns them? I didn't know that.
Jeffrey Epstein paid for those tapes that Bannon did.
So you could buy them from the estate.
So the trust owns it.
Yes. Oh, yes. The estate owns it.
The estate owns it. So wow. Okay. So that's a new fact. I didn't know the fact that that recording is not. So Bannon couldn't sell it if he tried. So if he wanted to do a documentary, he would never be able to use those hours in a documentary.
Yes, and again, let me stress that although Steve, who I am personally fond of, but Steve's cover here that
said no one ever
he was making a documentary about Epstein is 100% not true. I know this because I was there, and I'm fully.
Look at PDP. Yeah, he was helping him prepare for a 60 Minutes interview and like helping him rehab his image. He wasn't doing a documentary on what a piece of shit Jeffrey Epstein was. You know how I know? Because Jeffrey Epstein wouldn't pay for a documentary about what a piece of shit he was.
Aware and actually have it on tape of what transpired here, and that was Bannon's effort to help Epstein with his legal problems, and this would be in 2019 when the law was closing in on Epstein, and Bannon's suggestion was that Epstein go on national TV to try to perform a mea culpa or explain or humanize himself in some way, and then Bannon offered to help prepare him. So essentially, what Bannon was doing was media training. He was tutoring Epstein in how to face a hostile interview on a hypothetical 60 Minutes.
Was he using like the Trump methodology, like never apologize and double down and just say the kids had it coming?
Got it. So more of a training, a PR, than anything else. So
let's be clear about what that is. No, don't just move on from it, dickhead. He was helping a child sex trafficker rehab his image, giving him PR notes and helping him work through basically his witness testimony if he was called to the stand in the court of public opinion, so that he could paint his victims as not innocent or having it coming or being liars or deceptive or frauds or whatever, while trying to present himself to the world as a victim himself. And Steve Bannon was like, yeah, pay me and fly me to Paris, I'll help you do that. Now explain to me how either of these two assholes are cool with that.
Let's talk about your 100 hours that you have with them. How much information is in there that it's bombshell, earth-shattering type of information where the public should know about out of the 100 hours you have with them?
Well, it's a funny aspect of this, and people call me up now. People of significant standing and say, is there, on...
Am I in there?
The tapes.
Sorry, they say it like this. Michael, what did he say about me? It's all fake news, except the part where he said the girls really love me.
Does Epstein promise Trump young girls, or does Epstein promised Bannon younger? It's that kind of thing, and I kind of say, I don't know. You've obviously never done interviews with people. I mean, when they ask that kind of thing, these conversations.
You think that you mean criminals don't tend to incriminate themselves?
Unfold over a long period, and these are conversations like life itself. Epstein is talking about his life. There's lots and lots of details. There's lots of information that would be surprising. I suppose there are, the Daily Mail could go through this and pull out 1,000 headlines that would seem headline worthy. When you listen to these tapes, or when you were present, as I was during these things, you don't have that feeling. You have the feeling that this is incredibly interesting, fascinating, and it exposes a life. So what you get,
a life like any child sex trafficker has.
A life rather than headlines. Although, as I say, I'm sure you could go through this and pull out the sound bites, which would then add up to headlines.
Would the FBI or the DOJ benefit from having access to these 100 hours?
Well, benefit.
Not right now, because unless they could get rid of them.
For what purpose? Since Jeffrey Epstein is already dead.
No, not necessarily. We know he's already dead. Just to
Do we though?
gather more intel, would the FBI or the DOJ, if they're trying to get to the bottom of this, would they
Well,
get
I think it's a
anything?
question of what they're trying to get to the bottom of. If they are trying to get to the bottom of who Jeffrey Epstein was, about the real nature of Jeffrey Epstein's personality, about Jeffrey Epstein's not only his weaknesses but his strengths.
Yeah, great. I'm sure the FBI would love it for profiling purposes. That's not what he's talking about, and you know it. Did he bring up anybody he hung out with? Anybody that he found particularly exhausting or interesting, or, found it fortuitous to know them, and that he brought up he mentioned their name an odd number of times considering the content of the conversation. So you're like, maybe there's a vein to be mined there about this particular person. That's what he's talking about, and Michael Wolff knows this is exactly what everybody else is talking about. This fucking tap dance is so aggravating.
If the FBI and the DOJ were biographers, as I am, they would find it interesting.
Yeah.
And since they are not biographers, I think that they would probably be less interested.
Because you intentionally didn't ask any of the tough questions? Is that why? You were basically doing the same thing Steve Bannon was?
Certainly I am.
The FBI's job, different than CIA. CIA is international, foreign. The FBI is domestic. Their job is to make sure, families in America are going to be safe. Americans are going to be safe. So anybody that's tied to this, or to even eliminate or address a future next Epstein, they would probably benefit from studying the patterns of how this guy communicates. And if that's the case, has the FBI, has the Department of Justice, have they at all reached out to you since you've had these for 6 years, whether it's under Biden or Obama, to say, or Biden or Trump, to say, hey, Michael, we think we need access to this recording that you have?
No, they haven't, and they probably haven't for a lot of reasons. First, I'm a journalist and a writer, therefore that becomes a complicated thing. I mean, Epstein was a source for what I was doing. So I think that
it's also a source for what you're doing right now. You could argue that he's making a career out of leaking tidbits from these recordings. I mean, you could fucking milk this until Trump has passed away. Fuck Ghislaine Maxwell and everybody else. Until Trump is dead, and maybe even for years afterwards, if you could take the JFK assassination, kind of timeline as far as people's focus on conspiracy theories, he could milk this shit for decades.
Understand the difficulties there. And then I also think they're probably unclear on they probably have no goals. There is probably no open investigation of Jeffrey Epstein.
No, it's not Epstein. It's the people he was involved with, dum-dum. If you kill the head of a cartel, you still want to find out who else might step in and run the cartel. Or if it splits into two organizations, who might be the heads, who might be the officers, who might be the foot soldiers. This is not hard to figure out. Stop talking like we don't all know this shit. Like we've never seen an episode of Law and fucking Order.
Of course, to what point he is dead, and there's no, to my knowledge, open investigation of anyone else involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine is obviously has obviously been convicted. I mean, she's been convicted.
Right.
She's
in
jail and is now headed toward a pardon. So I don't think that there is.
Woo! Headed towards a pardon. That's kind of new. If you're talking about if this guy actually has an inside lane in the White House, I mean, of course, but still having somebody else besides the rest of us going, just by our own internal logic, that's a big deal.
That there is any. And
he rolls right past it. He doesn't go, I assume, or blah, blah, blah.
Issue there. So again, crossing these disciplines of of someone who has been interested in, someone has material that reflects the full life of this man, and then the FBI and the DOJ, who are not interested in the full life of this man, they're interested in only their highly segmented view of any given person.
Yeah, but not even a door knock, right? You've not even gotten a door knock on them. Hey, Michael.
Why would they? All right, they can't.
Can we see this?
They get, and maybe he's a material witness, but even then, he's, as a journalist, he could say no.
Had nothing. No email, no door knock, no text, no phone call.
No, because he wouldn't be able to get close to another source again because he gave up on the one source that he had, even if the dude is dead.
Nope.
Okay. And if you were to sell it to an interested party, what...
Namely me, because...
would be the range of your asking price?
I wouldn't sell it.
What would be the range of your asking price? I'm not saying I'm putting money down, but give me a ballpark, and maybe my buddies... We can all check our all the money we have left over from our multi-level marketing scheme.
Not for sale.
Oh, okay, so you're not selling it. I got it.
No, I'm a writer.
Okay.
So
it's also priceless in drips and drabs in a way that it is absolutely not in selling it all at once, like fucking somebody's music catalog.
This is a story that I think is worth telling as a writer. It's a story
forever.
That I mean, it's a pretty interesting story for me. So how I tell it and when I tell it, is a kind of an organic and natural process. But
I don't know why I got the impression that you were open to selling it, and you...
That's the only reason you had him on the show?
You said some people reached out, or they didn't, or you were surprised people didn't
No. I mean,
out.
I have spoken to many outlets, and but it is about telling this story. It is not about... I would never sell this. I would never... This is
okay, thanks for coming on the show then, click.
An important aspect of being a writer and a journalist. This is my...
Somebody just wrote the state of Nebraska is facing bankruptcy. I think I have a 20 sitting around here somewhere. Maybe we could all just pool our cash. How much can it be to set Nebraska right? About $186 and change? It's fucking Nebraska. Were you trying to keep the lights on in New Chicago?
Story.
Makes sense.
Not anyone else's story.
I respect it. Nowadays, more...
I respect it. You know what I would do is sell shirts and T-shirts that say "Future looks bright."
Than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us...
Right, and I'm wearing my favorite interstellar fratricide story brand. He sells this Future Looks Bright. It's so fucking embarrassing. I can't even. It's just gross. Yeah, so I think he had him on just to try and buy the shit. Send that 20 your way. Okay, Wes. If you promise to walk it straight to Nebraska, we're trying to help out.